Today, we hear the story of the doubting Thomas, or to include all of us, Thomas and Thomasina, since in truth, I suspect that the issue of doubt applies to all of us, at least at some point in our faith journey in this life. But let's begin with a few words on the opening reading, the passage from Acts that describes an idealized picture of the early church, a community that is of one mind and one heart. That phrase is foundational in the rule of St. Augustine that we Norbertines follow. The rule's opening chapter says, the first purpose for which we have come together is to be of one mind and one heart on the way to God. Note the last 5 words, on the way to God. Here, Augustine's addition acknowledges that this goal, this ideal, this dream of what the followers of Norbert call communio is always in front of us. This side of heaven, there is always more to learn, more to share, more to give and forgive. Life is a journey, and so is the life of faith. On faith's journey, there are moments we doubt, especially in the face of tragedy and pain. We ask, how could God let that happen? To quote a famous book by a Jewish rabbi, when bad things happen to good people, a preliminary answer to that question is that genuine good can come from even the worst of circumstances. If nothing else, our own experience of pain can make us more compassionate when we are confronted with the pain of others. Augustine would have to go even farther. When writing about that line from chapter 8 of the letter to the Romans, to those who love God, all things work for good. He proposes that all things, including even our sins, God can use even our sins as moments of grace. I know that's true. God can bring good out of mistakes and failures in my own life, especially my life as a priest. To put it bluntly, if I'm honest with myself, at least on my best days, acknowledging my sins makes me less arrogant, less judgmental, and so hopefully more understanding and even more compassionate. Clearly, to quote Teresa of Avila, God can write straight with crooked lines. Let's try again with the issue of doubt. The root question is actually the relationship between faith and reason. The former would have us trust and let go, confident that ultimately all will be well, since our lives are in the hands of a loving God. But this gift of faith surely does not require us to give up another gift, the God-given ability to think, to reason, to argue, to question, and grow. Thus it was St. Anselm in the 11th century who suggested that theology is faith seeking understanding. The key word is seeking. Again, in this side of heaven, there is always more to be discovered, more to be learned, to be unlearned as we seek understanding. To trust does not mean to stop searching. To believe does not entail the abandonment of the gift of intellect. To reinforce that point, I'd like to share a line written by John Courtney Murray, an American Jesuit who some 50 years ago wrote a wonderful book called The Problem of God. Murray argues that, of course, believing entails a decision, indeed, a risky decision. But then so does not believing entail a decision. And in describing the contrast between the two, he adds, how odd of God it would have been to make us rational, so that being rational, we would be gods. Coming at it from another angle, you could argue that the opposite of faith is not doubt, but rather a choice between complacency and despair. A word in which complacency breeds a kind of indifference that is equivalent to being self-satisfied, as if I already have it all together, and there is no need to grow or dig deeper. At its root, faith is about a relationship, and relationships can wither and die if they are not nurtured. To think that somehow, in the midst of life's journey, I have it all together and can just complacently stay where I am is really evidence of a certain pride, which proves the truth of another of Augustine's warnings. Pride can infect even good works, like faith, in order to destroy them. If indifference can hinder hope, despair is to abandon the hope of any hope. At its worst, it can lead to the tragedy that is manifested in the night before Good Friday. The difference between the story of a sinful Peter who repents and Judas Iscariot who despairs and takes his own life. To return to the doubting Thomas, today's text says that when the risen Lord appears in the upper room a second time, and Thomas is there, Jesus invites him to put your fingers into the marks of the nails and your hand into my side, giving him a chance to confirm the reality of the Lord's having risen from the dead. Thomas then answers with a simple 5 words: my Lord and my God. And those 5 words are the clearest statement of who Jesus is in the entire 4 Gospels. And they come from the one who doubted. A short addendum. As many of you know, Pope John Paul II declared the second Sunday of Easter today as a time to celebrate Mercy Sunday. A call to remember that, as Pope Francis repeats about once a month, the God we believe in is not a bookkeeper with black and red columns, but rather our God is foremost, a God of mercy. Like the Father in the parable of the prodigal son, a parable which really should be called the story of the prodigal father. He's always on the lookout, waiting for the young man to return home. A father who is prodigal with his love and compassion. Yes, today we remember and celebrate God's unfathomable mercy. A good homily should take us from the book to the table, and twice over, that is easy today. The God who reaches out to the doubting Thomas, and the God who is ever full of mercy and compassion, that same God would feed us God's image, we are meant to become people who, in mercy and compassion, would break ourselves open and pour ourselves out. In a word, self-empty, in the search to be of one mind and one heart on the way to God, that the kingdom might come just a little closer this day.